Welcome back to the Sound for More channel. Today I have the pleasure to introduce you to the new HX-ODDY from UVI. Before I continue, I would like to remind my viewers to subscribe as it helps with growing the channel. Thank you very much. Additionally, I would like to start giving thanks to UVI for giving me the opportunity, of course, to do a review of HX-ODDY on the Sound for More channel. Thank you again. So, HX-ODDY, as you can see, we are running it inside Falcon. You need Falcon or UVI workstation to run it. A great, fantastic addition to your library, which of course is based on the world first duophonic analog synth. You might remember the 2500, 2600 modular synth like the ARP. Of course, with a lot of configuration potential, cross-modulation filters like the ARP 4023, SVF, etc., etc. A lot of different potential, a lot of different character. But as any new engine in the modern era, it brings a lot of other addition, like the addition of 2 new layers of hardware-based wavetables and physically modeled filters, which is great, is fantastic. It comes with more than 280 presets, which have been assembled from a library of more than 13,000 hardware samples, which is great. So arranged in something like 181 layers, more than 180 layers, and of course almost 500 wavetables. So a lot of potentials. So as I mentioned, you will need UVI workstation or Falcon to run it, and of course it's quite hungry in terms of space, but it needs to be for what it delivers, which is amazing. So almost 4 gigabytes of disk space that you need to have on your machine. Now, when you first run it, this is what you see, or you might actually see the main page, which is this one. You can see at the top we have a menu selection here for loading and saving a preset, going to the previous next preset. You can click here where at the moment it's saying camouflage, and you can choose different categories of presets. And notice at the very bottom you have the initialize preset as well. And then you have a number of pages like the main page, the edit page, the effect page, your Arpeggiator page, and also your configuration settings where you can increase the number of voices to 64. The bend setting, if you wanted to run it in poly, or call it polyphonic, or polyphonic portamento, or mono, which will trigger, of course, for every note, and mono with additional portamento or glide. And then here you can adjust the output up and down. So, but let's go back to the main screen. So you can see a nice image here of the hardware device. And then at the very bottom, you have a number of macros, which I'll come back to in a moment. But before we go ahead with the walkthrough, let's listen to what it sounds like. Now we are running some sequenced presets, and let's try 2 for each category if we can. Sounds amazing. Let's try some arpeggiated presets. Great sound, great sound. Let's try one more. I like this one because you have that low bass sound, okay, in the background, really nice. Let's try some bass. Deep, really nice. Let's try this one. Great. Now let's try some lead. arpeggiator is engaged. You see this dot here, and similar to effect, you see effects are engaged here. The delay, reverb, chorus, EQ, maximizer. Okay, you see these dots here. So let's go back here. Let's try some keys. Sounds great. And let's try another one. Okay, and perhaps some pads. Absolutely really great. So let's try another one, this Gattaca. It could be really good for a type of space movie or something like that. Let's try some brass. Great. Let's try another one. Absolutely fantastic. And let's try some pluck and bells. Great. And one more. Why not another one? Perhaps these FM mullet. Okay, that's great. Some effect and rhythmic. Rising wheel, interesting. Okay, so interesting. Patchbook. Okay, so the purpose of this tutorial is to give you a quick demonstration and then to go through the feature of the synth. So now you know what it sounds like. I might record, if I have a little bit more time later on, another video on give you a better chance to hear other presets. But for now, let's go through the interface. So we click here where it says the name of the preset and we select the init preset, which sounds like this. Now you have a number of macro controls here, which are absolutely amazing. The first, you can activate them here, clicking on the power button for each one of them. Of course, you can activate them individually or all at the same time. You can have them as you prefer. The first one is tone, which adjusts the sound with some special combination of equalizer and a tube exciter. Okay, by the way, if you double click when it is active, you can adjust the number in percentage. So you can say 0, press enter. Okay, and that's what you get. So you can adjust it as you prefer with numbers, precise number. Then the second macro is phase, which is adding phases like chorus effect. Okay. Which is great. Then we have crash, of course, which is an analog crunch overdrive with a tube exciter. Okay, then we have echo shifter, which adjusts the intensity and mix of the pitch shift tape echo effect. Just turning it on. You see, even a very minimal, you can start to hear that echo, tape echo. And then finally, you have cloud, which adjusts the amount of special cloud space, which effectively is a granulizer delay reverb combo. You can hear it straight away, just a little bit of intensity. But you can hear the reverb combo coming in as you increase the intensity. Of course, you can combine all of them. Okay, now you can also go and select the initialized preset again if you want to initialize it. So you need to select a different preset and then go back to the initialized preset. Hopefully that will be changed in the future. But let's go back now, as you can hear, to the init preset. And let's go to the edit page. A lot of different controls, as you can see here, but they're not that difficult. So first of all, we have this tab for oscillator. We have a tab for samples, then a tab for the oscillator filter, a tab for the sample filter, and then a mixer here, okay? Let's start with the oscillator, okay? And you need to pay attention here to the mixing. In this case, we have active only oscillator number 1, you can see, is active there. You can deactivate it here, and now it doesn't produce any sounds. Reactivate it, and it produces sounds, which of course you can adjust also the volume here. Okay, so oscillator number 1, you can see you have 2 oscillators here. You can adjust the shape here. The octave. You can adjust the color, which is great on adjacent samples. You can adjust also the pitch. Okay. Can adjust the bend, of course, and then what you can see here on the right hand side, where you see this symbol, you click on it, and this is where you can give intensity to modulate through the modulation wheel, the LFOs, there are 2, and also the step modulation, which there are 2 as well, which you can find them here, right? Okay, so moving on, you can see there are 2 pages here. You can click this one here. You can go to the second page for the oscillator. And this is quite great because, of course, you can adjust detuning, the stereo spread, the FM ratio. You can add the unison voices. And you can adjust also from a frequency modulation, not only duration, but also the depth as well. Now pay attention to the number of voices if you start to click or clip, so in click, hold and increase them to a maximum of 64. You can see also these little circles here, which you can also adjust your velocity and also modulation wheel intensity, okay? So, and the same controls applies also to the second oscillator, so it's really easy to use. If you want to enable the second oscillator, do it here on the mixer. And of course, you can further modulate here the volume as well through an LFO, okay? Or as I come back in a moment, we'll see other way to modulate that through, for example, the step modulator. Okay, and then on the right-hand side, you have the oscillator filter. Okay, you have low pass and you have high pass, and you can decide what will be the envelope depth here for both the low pass and the high pass if you want to the filter to respond to key tracking. Remember, these are analog type of filter. Here you have resonance, and of course you can adjust further, you can modulate further the filter using an LFO. And let me give you an example actually. Let's click on here, and let's say the LFO, we'll set it down here. You can see it's starting to modulate straight away. You click on the X here to come out, and you go down here to the section at the bottom, and you can adjust the frequency, for example. So, okay, that is very simple to actually use. Okay, so we'll set this down to 0. Of course, you can adjust, as I mentioned, the envelope here in terms of depth. Let's say we go negative. And then we can adjust here the filter envelope in terms of ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, and release. We have also the ability to adjust the curvature here. Or you can do reverse, like so. You can set it down to a minimum. It doesn't sound at the moment. You can readjust the the envelope here to the other way in positive, so it will increase, and then you adjust the ADSR. So in this case, there is some attack. It takes some time to raise up to the maximum, which increase this part here in terms to the frequency for that low pass filter. So it's really simple to use, to be fair. You can increase the decay. You can change the curvature here, the other way around to make it quicker. So you see it dropped from a decay perspective really quickly. Again, double click here on the depth and set to 0 so we don't have any influence. Of course, you can adjust also the resonance, the resonance here. Apology that picked over there. Now, let's move forward and let's go to the sample page here. Now, in order to hear it, you need to disable, well, if you want to, of course, but you need to disable the other oscillators and enable the sample here. It's actually quite straightforward, but before we go into the sample, I'd like to show you also that there is noise here, so you can enable noise. And here you can adjust the type, pink stereo, white stereo, and of course you can modulate it here as well. Great, so let's reactivate the sample now. Similar controls here, LFO, modulation wheel, and modulator page here to have your modulation wheel, the velocity, LFO, and step modulator to modulate the volume, of course. Then here on the sample page, you can access here the sample, and which is great. A lot of different samples that you can access to, of course. And so on. You can adjust where the sample starts here. Of course, if you set it to a maximum, it's at the end, so you don't hear anything. Can adjust the octave. Similar control really to what you had for the oscillator page. You adjust the color, the pitch as well, and you can further modulate it. Then you can have unison on, set the number of voices up to 8, detune it, and spread it around the stereo field. Remember that here you have also an amp envelope, okay? Let's add some release. So your attack, decay, sustain, release for your oscillator and samples, and of course you can adjust the curvature here for the attack and also the release for the other parameters as well. You can adjust the pitch here in terms of depth. And also the timing. Make it shorter. Or subtle. Okay, that's great. So timing 0, let's reset down these to 0. Okay, perfect. So we've gone through the mixer, so now you know how that works. Let's deactivate the sample, reactivate oscillator number 1. But let's give it a bit release. Oops, yeah, on the oscillator page, of course. Great, because they are independent, as you can see. Okay, which is great. We have a sample filter here as well, low pass, high pass. It works with the envelope at the bottom. It works exactly the same as for the oscillator filter, but it is for the sample filter. Now that we have looked at this, let's go through the modulator. So you have two LFO, LFO A and B. Remember, you can select them here, clicking on the left. So the one which is selected is the one that you are modifying. Remember that. You can activate them, clicking on here, or deactivate them, of course. And then what you do is you just have to set the modulation target. So let's say this one, we go to the oscillator here, and in the middle, yeah, we click here and we say LFO maximum. We can adjust the shape, the frequency, of course, and we can further modulate the frequency, which is great, with the modulation wheel or with the step modulator, which is great. We can adjust the phasing, the delay, and also how quick it will rise. The depth, of course, which can be further modulated, and then in which mode, legato, or if it will retrigger based on keys. And then you have also a step modulator, which is great as well. So let's remove this one, and let's set the step modulator to maximum here in terms of modulation. Now you don't hear anything different there, so yeah. Now here you can decide to have some templates. Click here, like this one. Which is great, or you can define the steps yourself. You can increase them as well. Okay, and you can shift them as well, sorry, like so. Left and right. You can have it bipolar, you can smooth it, you can invert it, you can clear it, of course. Can select another template. Here you decide the number of steps. If here you want it to link or sync to the host, here the speed, and here if you want to smooth the transition between steps. So pretty straightforward, really. So I'll set these down to 0. Now let's move on. We have an effect page here as well. Here you have Here you have a lot of different effects. You can apply a delay, you can apply a reverb, a drive, a chorus, flanger. You have an equalizer where you can decide low, the bends in terms of amplitude here. Mid and high. You can adjust also the frequency here, okay, between the cross frequency. Here you have a maximizer with a threshold, of course. You can turn it on and off, of course, and like so. And then you have a threshold which set the input level at which limiting will begin. But as I said, you can activate the delay. You can adjust the timing, the feedback. You can apply low cut and high cut as well on the feedback. You have a rotation angle, which is just the rotation angle of the stereo feedback path. Then you have a mixer here. And you can see also sources for further modulation and the sync to host here. Then you have a reverb here. You can enable diffusion reverb and the size. You can adjust the decay, again low and high in terms of decay, in terms of adjusting the high and low frequency for the timing. You can adjust the width and the mix, of course. Also, you can disable them. Here you have your drive, gain input, gain output, and then the shape. You can, of course, make all the changes that you like. So you can decide between diode, truss, tube, etc. So a lot of different options. You set the amount here, of course. Oh, let's activate it first. Drive. Tube. Change very much the characteristics, and then you have your chorus where you can adjust the spread, the depth, the edge, and the mix. So a lot you can do here. Depth in terms of modulation depth, edge in terms of color of the chorus, and mix, of course, in terms of drive and wet. And then flanger, of course, again, turn it on and off, sync to the host. You can adjust, of course, the speed. You can adjust the delay time, the feedback, and the mix. And of course, we have seen the EQ and the maximizer. And then finally, you can click here to enable an arpeggiator, which is fantastic. You have an arpeggiator as well. You can decide if it acts on the oscillator, on the sample, or both. You can go between arpeggiator or phraser, okay? That's very different. If you're on an arpeggiator, of course, you decide the mode here as played up, down, and up and down. You decide the speed, the steps, and the octave. Standard arpeggiator, really. Now, if you have it running as a phaser, of course, then it's a completely different thing. You can adjust your lower and high octave, which lock the sequence in a specific octave range, with definable, of course, low and highest octave, which is great. And then you can adjust for each of the steps, the velocity, which is great. You would want to adjust the velocity. You can set to link, which enable the sustain from the previous step. You can change the mode here, which allows you to change between basic, harmonized, or chord. You can adjust the pitch, of course, the octave, the gate, and of course the pan here. Okay. You see the recognized chord as well, which is nice. Really, really great. And of course, you can choose some presets, which is great. You can go to the next one on the previous one with the arrows. Yeah, you can shift right and left. Triplet. And remember, here you can choose between basic, single, lowest, highest, the harmonized. You can choose the harmonized intervals, the chord you want to have as played, inverted, and then your bend up and down. So you have a lot of different options. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I hope you enjoyed the walkthrough and short demonstration. It's a fantastic library which you can use on Falcon or UVI workstation. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.